Hey folks, welcome back to Every Movie Ever Made, the show where I, of course, try to review every movie ever made. This week, Mr. Richmond, who's the guy who's got me reviewing all these movies for him, because he doesn't have time to watch them. Mr. Richmond apparently has a new investment. He's teamed up with some company I have never heard of before called Weyland-Yutani, and they've sent me out to this planet, LV-426. What kind of stupid planet doesn't even have a name? I don't know. But I'm here today to review movies, specifically movies having to do with Alien, and let's be honest with you, I kind of veer off from the theme a little bit toward the end, but whatever. But also because Mr. Richmond is now heavily invested, I am supposed to make sure that I tell you Weyland-Yutani, building better worlds. But let's get on with the movies. So our first Alien-type movie is Battleship. Yeah, that's the movie based on the, I guess you wouldn't call it a board game, but the game where, you know, you go B10, hit, and you do that for, 5 hours or whatever. I'm kidding, I love that game. We had the electronic talking version when I was a kid, and I will never forget that thing and the way it sounded and the way it went. Prepare for battle. Yeah, a lot of fond memories of playing electronic talking Battleship. Why am I talking about that and not the movie? Because this movie sucks on toast, folks. They decided to make a movie based on Battleship because, you wouldn't just make a movie about boats. And they decided that the way they would base it on the game is, you remember that part of the game where aliens invade the Earth and they have to use the Navy to stop the aliens? Well, that's what they based the movie on. It's not in the game. It's real dumb, real bad. 1 star. Spaceballs is Mel Brooks' attempt to satirize Star Wars and all the other spacey movies. Kind of in keeping with our theme, there's certainly a lot of aliens in it, like Barf the Mog. He's half man, half dog, as played by John Candy. There's also a reunion of the original Aliens cast at a diner, and once again, John Hurt has an alien pop out of his chest. Only this time, it sings that song that Michigan J. Frog sings in the old Warner Brothers cartoons. I liked this movie certainly a lot when I was a kid. Looking at it now, it's not Mel Brooks' finest. This is sort of in the decline, I think, of Mel's career. It gets by on sheer chutzpah and charm. So it's certainly a watchable movie, if not, one of his best efforts by any means. 2.5 stars.
4.
Galaxy Quest, on the other hand, is an absolutely masterful movie. I love Galaxy Quest. Now, this is how to do a space parody right. This is the movie where Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver and Alan Rickman and Sam Rockwell and that dude from Just Shoot Me. Nope, I take that back. He's an alien. But anyway, the rest of them are all, they all used to star in a TV show called Galaxy Quest that was more or less Star Trek. And one day, aliens show up thinking that they are actually the people that they played on TV and try to get them to come into space to help them fight some actual aliens. It's a hilarious movie. You really got to see it. It really does everything right. It is a pitch-perfect parody of Star Trek and other sci-fi television. Amazingly performed, very funny, 4 big stars. All right, folks, let's get down to the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. Let's talk about the granddaddy alien attack movie. It's got to be Alien, right? Alien is, for me, a perfect movie. The Alien series was my dad's favorite movies growing up. I, would sit down and watch the Aliens movies with him a bunch of times, even though there was no reason a little kid should be watching these R-rated science fiction gore fests. But there you go. Alien, of course, is the original. This is Sigourney Weaver and a bunch of other people, including John Hurt and Yaphet Kotto and the great Harry Dean Stanton, are essentially space truckers. They're like kind of blue-collar people in space, which is a terrifically innovative concept, certainly for that time, but still not really a thing that you see, and I wish we would see more of. As they're cruising around space in their grubby spaceship, and they get diverted to check out this planet by the evil corporation. and they pick up an alien that pops out of John Hurt's chest, and then grows into a big alien that, you know, murders everybody except Sigourney Weaver. I just told you the movie. It's a great movie, so atmospheric. The small setting, the one alien, all works so well together. This is horror and suspense done absolutely perfectly. 5 stars. Now sequels, folks, sequels usually kind of suck, right? More often than not, you go to see the sequel and you're like, I guess that was pretty good, or like, ugh, what did they do there? And Aliens sounds like it might kind of suck because they take the original idea and they blow it all out of proportion. Ridley Scott, who directed Alien, is not back. This time it's James Cameron. And he looked at the little movie of the ship and the one alien on the ship terrorizing the 5 or 6 people. And he went, I'm not going to do one alien. Let's do like, I don't know, 40 aliens. And we'll also give them an alien queen that's an even bigger alien. And instead of having it take place on a spaceship, we'll go to like a colony on a planet. And instead of blue-collar space truckers, let's have Marines. This movie's so great, you guys. I can't even tell you how perfect this movie is. Yes, a lot of the characters are sort of, let's be generous and call them archetypes rather than stereotypes. You've got badass Vasquez running around with that giant machine gun thing on the whole. It's so heavy she needs like a special rig to carry it around. I want that thing so bad. You've got Paul Reiser is the wormy evil corporate guy that pals around for whatever reason. Lance Hendrickson, of course, in his career-defining performance as the robot Bishop, who does that thing with the knife where he goes in between the fingers, which kids, you should not do at home. It's such a great movie. It's how they were able to make a sequel and make it completely different from the original and still have it work and be just as perfect as the original, but in a whole different way, is beyond me. 5 stars. I wish I could tell you that they were able to keep the quality of the Alien series at that high, high level. They weren't. That brings us to Alien Cubed, I guess you would call it. Like you would think it would be Alien 3, but they write it with a little 3 up in the corner like it's Alien Cubed, so I don't know. But I'm going to call it Alien Cubed. This is the one where Sigourney Weaver's escape pod from aliens crashes on a prison planet. She has to shave her head, I guess because they have lice or something. And she and the other prisoners spend the whole movie fighting an alien that popped out of a doggy. So I guess it's a little more dog-like. This is actually David Fincher's first movie. David Fincher, the great director who would direct such classics as Zodiac. You probably know him best for Fight Club, which I don't particularly like, but still a quality auteur of a director. Just starting out here and certainly doesn't have a lot. The studio certainly has more say in this one than he does. There are defenders of this movie. There have been a lot of think pieces out on the internet lately about, hey, Alien Cubed's a lot better than you remember it being. But here's what I'm here to say. Alien Cubed is not any better than you remember it being. It is pretty bad. It's got moments, you know, I appreciate a lot of what they're trying to do here. It is one of those flawed movies that there's a fascination to it because you do kind of wish it would just somehow come together and work. There's cool stuff. I like the ending, but it's not that great. 2 stars. Alien Resurrection is not any better than Alien Cubed, but I think it's maybe slightly more fun because it's not as dour. Also, this is the movie that on paper sounds like a can't-miss movie. This is the movie that was written by Joss Whedon of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the Avengers fame, and directed by the dude what directed Amélie, that delightful French comedy about the delightful French girl played by Audrey Tautou. So you would think, well, this is going to be pretty great. It's not. It's the far future. They have cloned Ripley, but she's come back part alien, I guess. Winona Ryder's in it as a robot, but it doesn't really matter that she's a robot. Ron Perlman's also there. As they are on a military ship that has cloned Ripley because they're trying to make aliens again. Because all these movies are really about evil corporate types trying to turn the aliens into weapons. which, listen, that's probably what would happen. So it's not that far-fetched. This one, there are parts of it that are trying to go for like over-the-top weird comedy. There are parts of it that are still trying to be straight horror. I'd be interested in seeing a different director take it on and try and do more of what I think was the dark comedy that Whedon was going for. But even if they did it perfectly to his vision, I don't think it would be that great. It's got moments. Certainly the scene where clone Sigourney Weaver goes into the room where there's all the other clone Sigourney Weavers and they're all like messed up clones and stuff. That's pretty good, but it's 2 stars. Let's talk about Alien versus Predator. Again, it's not really any better. This is the one where they said, hey, what if the aliens from Alien fought the Predators from Predator? And then they said, you know how those other movies are rated R? Let's make this one PG-13. So there's none of like the great blood and gore that you remember from those other movies. And also, let's not have it be in the future. Let's just set it now in the Antarctic. Listen, it's doofy as all heck, but there is a certain visceral joy in watching these monsters punch each other in the face. It's a dumb plot that almost works for me, but it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense in context of any of the other movies. It's like watching a comic book or a fan fiction or something. It has some charms, but not very many. There's a moment at the end where all of the predators are dead except one predator. And all the humans are dead except one human. And the human and the predator have to team up to fight the aliens. And that lasts for maybe about 5 minutes. If that had been like the whole movie, I think it could have been great. As is, 2 stars. Now we're going to skip right over Alien vs. Predator Requiem because I saw it once, but I don't remember it, but I cannot be bothered to see it again. I don't care how much money you throw at me, Richmond. Not going to do it. We're going to go right on to Prometheus, the Alien prequel movie from Ridley Scott, because one morning Ridley Scott woke up with a bug up his butt and said, I'd like to make another Alien movie, but I don't want to put any aliens in it. And it's kind of a prequel to Alien, but I'm going to be super obnoxious about whether or not it is and all that. That said, I like this movie a lot. It's pretty dumb. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's one of those movies where the plot depends on all the people in the movie, even though they're scientists and stuff, being real dumb. It's got a great cast, though. Charlize Theron is in it. Noomi Rapace is in it. Idris Elba is in it. David Fassbender is in it as Michael Fassbender, who I love, is in it as the kooky robot David, who David's whole deal is pretty much he thinks the aliens are awesome. He'd like to see him kill people more often. Which, I guess in a way, David's a great audience surrogate in that way because he just wants the aliens to kill people. It's pretty doofy. It has a really skin-crawling, great tense horror scene in a medical bay that I won't talk about too much here. But it's a movie that has grown on me a bunch since I saw it the first time. I've got to give it 3 stars. So, the Alien Covenant that's brand new, just recently out in theaters. This is the most recent, it's a sequel to Prometheus, so it's still a prequel, but they pulled Ridley aside and they said, Ridley, you got to put more aliens in this thing. So Ridley went ahead and slapped aliens on the title and slapped a couple of actual aliens in this one. And that's about a colony ship, heading down to a lush kind of jungle planet, a first for these alien-type movies, and encountering a bunch of aliens that want to kill them. And also down there, for no good reason, is Michael Fassbender back as the robot David, but also the good guys, they've got a different Michael Fassbender robot who has a different accent. His name is Walter. Walter's a good robot. David's still the evil robot. And David's whole deal on this planet is he's essentially become Dr. Moreau, and he's been experimenting around trying to breed him some aliens for no good reason, as far as I can tell. Mostly Michael Fassbender just wants to see the world burn and watch aliens kill some people. I kind of got to get behind it. Listen, you guys, I liked this movie. I liked it. I love David. Obviously, Ridley Scott has decided that the Alien series is no longer about Ripley. Sigourney, I didn't say enough about Ripley talking about Alien and Aliens. Sigourney Weaver is so great in those movies and such a great female action hero. But David is, as the kooky robot, I cannot get enough of. I'm looking forward to seeing a third one of these things. 3 stars. Because it's still not all that great, but 3 stars. Cowboys and Aliens. Now this is the movie that sounds like it's a movie where it's another prequel where some cowboys run around on a ranch and fight the aliens from Alien that are like popped out of some cows or something. It ain't though. This is Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford and a bunch of awesome character actors like Sam Rockwell and Clancy Brown who get nothing to do in this movie. Just bopping around the Old West fighting some generic looking aliens for no real good reason. It's super bland. 2 stars. My Stepmother is an Alien. Now you would hope this would be the movie where somebody's stepmother is the alien queen from the Alien movies. I think that would be a wacky comedy that they should make tomorrow. But instead, this is a movie about Dan Aykroyd, which, you guys, Dan Aykroyd. But Dan Aykroyd is, listen, he was in Blues Brothers, which is great. He was in Ghostbusters, which is great. And then why, I can't even with Dan Aykroyd. But in any event, Dan Aykroyd is a science dude. His daughter is Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who oddly enough has a date with Oz from Buffy the Vampire Slayer later on in this movie, but that's neither here nor there. Dan Aykroyd's a science dude who Kim Basinger comes down from space, and she's a ditzy alien that tries to get Dan Aykroyd to help her save her civilization somehow. And also John Lovitz is there at his most lecherous and least fun. This is a rough one, folks. 1.5 stars. Guys, let me tell you a story about E.T., the extraterrestrial. This is a movie that was huge when I was a little kid. I think my grandparents bought it for me on videotape. I did not like it. It was very scary to me. I could not watch it. I wanted nothing to do with it. A couple weeks ago, I finally, after years and years, decided I need to give E.T. another chance. It's a real good movie. I know I'm really surprising a lot of people out there when I say this. It's a real good movie. I can see where it would have freaked me out as a kid. There is a lot of stuff in this movie that is like designed in a lab to skeeve out a little kid. But it's a pretty good movie. E.T., you know, is an alien who gets left behind on Earth by his people, and he needs to get back home. And he gets some neighborhood kids, Elliot and his sister Drew Barrymore, to help him out. It's a real good movie. There's a lot in it that you could see as an allegory for the life of Jesus, if you're into that kind of a thing. It's a good movie. 3.5 stars. Now, folks, I love me The Last Starfighter. This is the movie. This is 80s. This is pure, like distilled 80s cheese. This is a movie about Alex, who is a kid who lives in a trailer park, who's just leaving high school, getting ready to go to college. Can't wait to get away from the trailer park. But you know what? Everything's keeping him at the trailer park. There's always stuff that needs fixing. His application for a student loan to go to an out-of-state school is declined. He feels like he's going to be stuck there forever. But friends, there's an arcade game at the trailer park called Starfighter, and one night, in a scene that is mind-boggling, it's mind-boggling because Alex plays Starfighter. This is me playing a video game. Alex plays Starfighter so well that he gets the top score, and everybody comes from all of the trailers to cheer him on and watch him get the high score at this video game, which is so dumb, but makes me so happy every time. And then, friends, we find out that the video game is a recruitment tool for an actual group of intergalactic space, like, starfighters. And the Music Man from the movie The Music Man comes to Earth, and he gets Alex and takes him to space to join the Starfighters. I love this movie, you guys. I know that it's a dumb movie, I know, but I was watching it the other day. It made me so happy. Was I crying during this movie? Yeah. I was crying like a baby at the end of Starfighter when Alex comes back to Earth for his girlfriend. Like a baby. And everybody from the trailer park is there, and they're like, "We're so proud of you, Alex." I love this movie. Is it a good movie? I can't tell you. Much like last week with The Godfather, I had to look into my soul and I had to say, what am I going to rate this movie? Because what do you have a soul for if you're not using it to think about how many stars you should give a dumb movie? And again, I had to be true to myself. I had to say to myself, how much do I like this movie? There's no way to be objective about these things. How much do I like it? Guys, 4 stars. 4 stars for The Last Starfighter. You know what's a pretty good movie? Men in Black. Yeah, I'll go out there on a limb. I'll go out there on a limb and say that the second most popular movie of its year, behind only Titanic, Men in Black, is a pretty good movie. Tommy Lee Jones, Will Smith, they're government agents who fight aliens and stuff. Wonderfully directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, I always enjoy his quirky direction. Of course, Tommy Lee Jones is the stern alien cop, and Will Smith is the no-nonsense, well, I guess the all-nonsense, smart aleck alien cop. And they fight some aliens. Vincent D'Onofrio is great as a giant bug that's crammed down inside of a human, which if you haven't seen the movie makes no sense. But you know what? Guys, this movie is somehow 20 years old already. And so I guess there are going to be people out there who have not seen it. You should go see it. It's a fun movie. 3.5 stars. It's got a talking pug in it. There is a talking pug in Men in Black. Now, if you, like me, are a big fan of the Flophouse podcast, and I am sure that everybody watching this right now are big, big fans of A, podcasts, and B, the Flophouse in specific, then you don't need me to tell you how much those guys love the movie Castle Freak. So I decided it was about time I watched Castle Freak. Now, for normal people, what are you talking about, Eric? What's Castle Freak? Castle Freak is a movie. I'm going to see how many times I can say Castle Freak in this review. Probably a lot. Castle Freak is a movie directed by Stuart Gordon, the great horror movie director of such classics as Reanimator, and also that kind of dumb movie Robot Jocks. Oh, and From Beyond, which is a great movie. I need to stop myself before I go down a Stuart Gordon hole. Stuart Gordon directs, starring, of course, the guy who's the star of all of your great Stuart Gordon movies, Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs and his family, they are reeling from the loss of their son in a car accident caused by Jeffrey Combs getting drunk. They, I guess, inherit a castle in Europe, so they move into the castle, and very quickly people start getting murdered. The police blame Jeffrey Combs, but friends, it's not Jeffrey Combs. It's the castle freak. Because inside of this castle is a freak. For whatever reason, and I'm only using that term because that's what the movie calls him, and because he is not discernible as any other kind of a monster like a werewolf or a Dracula. For some reason, the previous owners of this castle, and they explain it in the movie, I didn't really care, they keep a freak chained up in the basement, and now that Jeffrey Combs is running things, this freak manages to break out and cause all kinds of trouble. He's a castle freak. Is this a good movie? Not particularly. It is certainly not up to the snuff, I think, of Reanimator and From Beyond. I think its biggest problem, I believe, this is a Full Moon feature, and if you might remember, Full Moon was that company that did a bunch of direct-to-video horror movies in the early 90s heyday of video rental stores, so they did like the Puppet Master series, which again, I'm sure everyone watching this is super familiar with the Puppet Master movies. But in any event, Castle Freak, its biggest problem is that it looks super cheap, and I'm sure it was, and so it could use a little bit more money thrown at it to really be something. It's all right. It's not great. 2 stars for the Castle Freak. So you might have noticed with Castle Freak that we're getting a little bit away from the original raison d'etre of this episode. We're not so much talking about alien movies, but what I would like to think of as alien-adjacent movies, by which I mean movies wherein there's a monster that is not necessarily an alien attacking people. Let's just go with it. And so the next one I want to tell you folks about is Krampus. Krampus is a movie from a couple of years ago starring Adam Scott and David Koechner, who are normally comedy guys. And while there are laughs in this movie, this is pretty much a straight horror movie. It is based on the German legend of Krampus, which if you do not know, the Krampus So there's Santa Claus, right? You guys know Santa Claus's deal. Goes around Christmas Eve, toys to the good kids. Well, according to German folklore, there's also a thing called the Krampus, which is a demon who on the same night travels around and punishes the naughty kids. So this is a movie where Krampus attacks a family. And do a bunch of people die? Yeah, they do. And do they die like Christmas-themed deaths? Yeah, they do. Is it a pretty good movie? Yeah, it is. There's some great creature effects, a lot of cool practical stuff in this. There is a Jack-in-the-Box monster that is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. There's a teddy bear monster. There's even a Christmas tree angel topper monster in a movie that also stars Academy Award nominee Toni Collette. I enjoyed this movie a lot. It's a real fun time. 3.5 stars. Let's talk about Fright Night, where as we get even further away from weird monsters now to just a vampire, played by Colin Farrell, which is a little weird in and of itself. This is the remake of the great 80s horror classic Fright Night. I had not wanted to see this movie particularly because so the idea of Fright Night is that there's a kid who realizes his neighbor's a vampire. And in the original movie, he gets an old horror movie actor, played by Roddy McDowall, named Peter Vincent, to help him defeat the vampire. But here's the thing, Peter Vincent doesn't actually know anything about vampires, he's just an actor. And it's a pretty fun movie. In this one, the kid is played by Anton Yelchin, who played Chekhov in those Star Trek movies, and who sadly passed away suddenly a couple years ago, but who I always enjoy in movies. And this time he teams up with a magician who's pretty much Criss Angel. So when I saw that, I went, I don't want to see this movie. I hate Criss Angel. I do not want to watch a movie where that's a big part of it. The Criss Angel guy, still named Peter Vincent, is played by David Tennant in this one, who was the 10th Doctor Who, I think. Yeah. He spends about 5 minutes in the Criss Angel makeup, and then he gets rid of that, so that's just fine. Colin Farrell's a pretty good and pretty threatening vampire, and there's some fun and creative vampire stuff in this movie. I know this movie gets ragged on. It's certainly not the original, but I thought it was, you know, especially for a modern vampire movie that seems like a cash grab, I thought this did some interesting stuff. I quite liked it, especially the way he defeats the vampire at the end. I don't want to tell you how, obviously he defeats the vampire, but I don't want to tell you how he does it because it's really cool and creative. And hey, is Toni Collette in this movie too? Yeah, she is. 3.5 stars. The Thing, this is an alien. Back to aliens. An alien kind of crash lands in the Antarctic, and the dudes who work at a research station have to fend it off. But here's the thing. The alien can look like anybody. It can look like you, it can look like me, so nobody knows who's the alien and who's not. And in between looking like people, it looks like some of the most freakish special effects you have ever seen in your life, like a head with spider legs. This movie is great. Directed by the great John Carpenter, one of my all-time favorite directors. He also did Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China. He's the greatest. This movie is one of his absolute best. It's super tense and creative and amazing. 5 stars. You guys, let me tell you about a bizarre movie that I love, and that is The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension. Starring Peter Weller as Buckaroo Banzai. Who, you might ask, is Buckaroo Banzai? Why, Buckaroo Banzai is a guy who is a brain surgeon, a rock and roll star, a race car driver, and kind of a superhero. He is amazing. He travels around the country with his team of friends that are called they're called the Hong Kong Cavaliers. And they include Clancy Brown and Jeff Goldblum. And this is a movie about how they need to stop an alien invasion that is coming to Earth via the Eighth Dimension. And the alien leaders are Christopher Lloyd, who plays an alien named John Big Boutte, and John Lithgow, who plays a crazy guy named Dr. Lizardo, who is also possessed by an alien. This movie, I can't even begin to describe to you how weird and quirky and unique this movie is. I love it. It's a movie that very much you are either going to get and love, or you were going to be like, what is this stupid thing? I love it. 4 stars. The Wraith is a pretty bad movie that is somehow sort of cheesily charming about Charlie Sheen, who's a ghost, who drives a ghost car and is out to kill all the people that killed him. It's pretty bad. Like I say, some camp value, 2.5. Now, I think you guys have probably figured out by now, I'm a horror movie guy. I like my horror movies. I've taken a little bit of a pass on a lot of the horror movies from the 90s. I certainly saw all the Screams, and I saw at least the first I Know What You Did Last Summer, but I never bothered with Final Destination. Watched it the other day. I liked it. It's a clever movie. It's fun, sort of stupid in parts. The characters and the actors aren't super engaging, but it was a good time. 2.5. What is Clifford? A movie that stars Martin Short, adult Martin Short, as a little boy. What is this movie doing in our Aliens Attack series? If you've seen Clifford, I think you will agree, it's not so far off base. Clifford is great. This is a movie that a lot of people really hate. I am in the camp that I love it. Martin Short, again, is Clifford, who is I don't know if I want to say evil little boy, but certainly of the problem child set. Again, being played by an adult who has to go stay with his uncle, played by Charles Grodin, and makes Charles Grodin's life a living hell. This is a great movie. 3.5 stars. Now, The Howling, this is your premier series of movies about werewolves. I have never seen any Howling movie. I've been meaning to for years. I noticed a few of them were on demand. I decided I need to sit down and watch The Howling. I got 2.5 movies in. I will tell you right now that Howling 3, The Marsupials, was not my cup of tea. But I did watch all of the original The Howling, directed by the great Joe Dante, who gave us Gremlins and Inner Space, with creature effects by the great Rob Bottin, who did the amazing creature effects in The Thing. The Howling doesn't work for me. It's a movie about a TV reporter who has to go stay at a hippie commune for a little while and then figures out that all the hippies are actually werewolves. This is a movie about werewolves that takes a solid hour 10 before a werewolf shows up. Once the werewolves show up, they're kind of fun and cool, but otherwise, it didn't do it for me. 2 stars. Now, The Howling 2, which is the full title of which, at least when I saw it, it has a few titles, but I saw it as The Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf, which is a great title. Picks up where the last one left off, where the news reporter lady from the first one, she's dead. And so now her sister and her boyfriend are going to go to like Romania to fight completely different werewolves. And they're joined by Christopher Lee, who is like the Van Helsing of werewolves. They're going to Romania to find the werewolf queen, who's played by Sybil Danning, who's a very, let's call her Zoftig actress, who runs around in this movie in the most bizarre studded leather getup you have ever seen in your life. This movie is dumb and campy as all heck. I loved it. I kind of loved it. It is super bad, but in that good bad way that the first Howling and the third Howling just aren't. This movie is just bonkers and nuts and so dumb and so bizarre. I really enjoy it. There is a lot of stuff in this that I would love to tell you guys about, but I do my best to keep this at least marginally, in the ballpark of being vaguely family friendly. And if I tell you about the weird stuff in The Howling 2, we are going to leave that realm right away. Suffice to say, you should see The Howling 2. If you like bad movies, you're going to love it. 2.5 stars. All right, guys, it's getting dark here on LV 426, so I think I need to be getting going. We'll be back next week with some more movies, but like I say, I don't know. I talked to this little girl earlier, and she said that, I don't know, it's something about that they mostly come out at night. I don't want to know what that is. So this is Eric saying goodbye from Bad Movie Brothers, and because I have to, saying Wayland Yutani, building better worlds.